You didn't land on this video by accident. Whether you believe in destiny, divine timing, or sheer randomness, something deeper brought you here. Something within you is seeking, yearning, perhaps even crying out for a breakthrough. And if you're honest with yourself, you've known it for a while. There's a war going on inside your mind. A silent, persistent voice that rarely sleeps. It's not the loud, dramatic kind. It's subtle, constant, relentless. The voice that whispers when no one else is around. The one that questions your worth, doubts your dreams, and replays every failure like a broken record. That voice? That's your inner talk. According to Neville Goddard, this inner talk is not just idle chatter. It is the creative power of the universe flowing through your own consciousness. It is the silent architect of your life. He said, your inner speech is perpetually written all around you in happenings. In other words, what you repeat to yourself in the quiet moments becomes the script of your reality. Not metaphorically, literally. Think about that. The most influential conversation you will ever have isn't with your mentor, your partner, or your boss. It's with yourself. And that conversation is happening right now. While you're reading these words, you're also thinking about how they apply to you. Maybe part of you is resisting or doubting. Maybe another part is quietly saying, yes, this is what I needed to hear. That dialogue is shaping the lens through which you see this moment and your entire life. Neville taught that consciousness is the only reality. Your outer world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the assumptions you hold within. If your inner talk is dominated by fear, guilt, or shame, your world cannot help but mirror those feelings back to you. Not because you're unlucky, not because life is unfair, but because the world is obedient to your inner state. Always. And yet, most people go through life never questioning the voice in their head. They assume it's just how I am. But what if that voice isn't you? What if it's just a habit? A program you didn't consciously choose, yet repeat daily like a mantra? Neville called this the loop of belief. A self-perpetuating cycle where your assumptions shape your reality, and your reality reinforces your assumptions. It's a trap, but it's also an invitation. Because if you created the loop, you can break it. If your reality is a reflection of your self-talk, then the moment you change your self-talk, you change everything. This is not a motivational gimmick. This is metaphysical truth. The law of assumption, Neville's core teaching, says that whatever you assume to be true, with feeling and persistence, must harden into fact. Your inner world precedes the outer. Always. Your thoughts are not just thoughts. They are seeds. And every word you speak within, especially the ones you repeat, is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious. Eventually, that seed must grow. So ask yourself now, what kind of seeds have I been planting? What truths have I been rehearsing in silence? Because if you've ever wondered why certain patterns keep repeating in your life, why progress feels elusive, why success always seems one step away, it might not be about your actions. It might be about the inner conversation you've been having all along. And here's the beautiful, terrifying truth. No one else hears it, but it's shaping everything. Before transformation begins, there must be awareness. But awareness in itself can be painful. It forces you to look at the invisible roots of your life, the beliefs you've accepted, the assumptions you've repeated, and the inner dialogues you've normalized. Most people never stop to observe their own thoughts. They are so deeply identified with their inner voice that they assume it is them. But what if it's not? What if that voice, that critical narrator, is simply the echo of past conditioning, parents, teachers, failures, traumas, looping in your mind like a forgotten song stuck on repeat? Neville Goddard taught that the subconscious mind is impressionable, obedient, and literal. It does not filter or analyze. It accepts what is impressed upon it through repetition and feeling. This means that the words you repeat in your mind, especially with emotion, become the blueprint by which your world is constructed. So when you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, I always mess things up, or nothing ever works out for me, you are not simply expressing frustration. You're issuing commands. These commands don't just float in the void. They crystallize into circumstances. Neville wrote, "The world is a mirror, forever reflecting what you are doing within yourself." If your inner talk is fearful, self-deprecating, or defeatist, then your outer world must reflect situations, relationships, and outcomes that confirm that script. Not because life is cruel, but because life is neutral, and it simply follows the pattern you've impressed upon it. This is the cruel loop that traps so many. You have a negative belief, so you speak it internally. Your subconscious accepts it. Life responds with evidence. That evidence strengthens your belief. and the cycle deepens. You don't realize you're the one spinning the wheel. You think it's just how life is. But here's what Neville understood, and what few truly grasp: the loop can be broken. The moment you become the observer of your thoughts, truly observing without judgment, you begin to reclaim your power. You start to see that your inner speech is not passive. It's creative, it's generative, and it is within your control. Let's pause and reflect. Since you woke up today, what have you been saying to yourself? In the silence of brushing your teeth, during that moment of delay in traffic, or when you looked in the mirror, what script did your mind replay? Was it loving, empowering, encouraging, or was it subtle criticism? Was it silent punishment? Neville Goddard made it clear: you cannot have one inner state and expect a different outer experience. The inner must precede the outer. He did not say this as philosophy, but as law. The law of consciousness, the law of assumption. Assume lack, and lack appears. Assume wholeness, and life rearranges itself to reflect that wholeness. This is why becoming aware of your inner talk is not just helpful, it is essential. It is the doorway to all change. You must first hear the words you've been speaking in the dark before you can write a new script in the light. And here's the miracle hiding in plain sight. You are not your thoughts. You are the one listening to them. And that listener, the observer, that is your true self. That is the God Neville spoke of. Not a being outside you, but the awareness within you. The I am that speaks before any other word follows. So when you become aware of your inner talk, you are not just tuning into a habit. You are meeting your creator. You are standing at the gates of the power that forms universes. And the question becomes, what will you choose to say next? Awareness alone is not enough. It shines a light, yes, but without deliberate action, that light simply reveals the walls of your prison. The next step is responsibility, the willingness to rewrite the script you've been unconsciously reciting for years. This is where most people hesitate, because to rewrite your inner talk means to challenge the self you've grown used to dismantle the identity that suffering has built, and that is terrifying. Why? Because it feels safer to be predictable in pain than to be powerful in the unknown. Neville Goddard made a radical claim: change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. In other words, the world doesn't change first, you do. Not by force, not by hustle, but by assumption. By deliberately choosing a new inner conversation and repeating it until it becomes your new identity. This is not affirmation spoken with doubt. This is living from the end, another cornerstone of Neville's teaching. Living from the end means to think, feel, and speak as if the thing you desire is already true. Not in the future. Not one day. Now. Why now? Because consciousness is always in the present. Your subconscious doesn't understand someday. It only understands what you are being now. If you say, I will be successful, you are assuming lack. But if you declare, I am successful, and feel it fully, deeply, then your subconscious begins to realign reality to fit that truth. But let's be honest. In the beginning, this feels fake, awkward, even foolish. How can you say, I am abundant, when your bank account is empty? How can you say, I am loved, when your heart is broken? Because that's the test. The bridge of transformation is crossed by those who can persist in the assumption of their wish, fulfilled in the face of contradictory evidence. Neville called this the art of faith, the capacity to remain loyal to the unseen reality you have chosen, regardless of what the outer world appears to show. When you catch yourself thinking, I'm not enough, you stop, not later, but in the moment, and you replace it. I am more than enough. Not as a wish, as a fact. When you feel discouraged and the old thought rises, things never work out for me, you flip it. Everything is working in my favor always. Not because it feels true at first, but because you've chosen to make it true. This is not about suppressing emotions or denying reality. It's about choosing which reality you will feed. Every thought is a seed. Every repetition is water. You don't dig up the seed to check if it's growing. You plant, you water, and you trust the law. Neville emphasized repetition, not as a mechanical act, but as a sacred one. Because the more you repeat a new inner conversation with feeling, the deeper it sinks into the subconscious. And once a new belief takes root, it begins to express itself effortlessly in your life. People change, opportunities appear, circumstances bend, not because the world is magical, but because you've become magnetic to the new reality you now embody. This is the work, and it is holy work, to choose your thoughts with intention, to speak to yourself as you would to someone you love deeply, to stop being your own enemy and become your greatest ally. You do this not once, not for a day, but as a way of being. Consistently, lovingly, unapologetically, because the inner talk you choose today becomes the life you live tomorrow. And when you master it, you don't just change your thoughts, you transform your entire identity. That is when the world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. Rewriting your inner talk is not a one-time act of willpower. It's a lifestyle shift, a spiritual discipline. And to make this shift truly permanent, it must be infused with something most people overlook: emotion. You see, words without feeling are like seeds thrown on dry stone. They may be spoken, but they never take root. Neville Goddard understood this with crystal clarity. He taught that feeling is the secret, that it is not the words alone, but the emotional energy behind them that impresses the subconscious and shapes reality. This is where many fail. They recite affirmations like rituals, mechanically, hoping repetition alone will do the work. But your subconscious doesn't respond to empty phrases. It responds to states of being. It listens to how you feel, not just what you say. So if you say, "I am abundant," but feel fear, scarcity, or doubt while saying it, your subconscious hears the emotion, not the words. It picks up the vibration of lack, and that becomes your continued experience. Neville insisted, "It is not what you want that you attract. You attract what you believe to be true. And what you believe to be true is always anchored in what you feel to be real." So the practice isn't just to replace negative self-talk with positive phrases. It's to enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To embody the state of already having, already being, already living the version of yourself you desire. This may sound mystical, but it is deeply practical. Think of a time when you felt truly confident, even for a moment. You didn't just say confident things, you felt them. Your body changed. Your posture lifted. Your energy radiated certainty. That state became magnetic. People responded to it. Opportunities flowed to it. Not because you manipulated the world, but because you were aligned with the version of yourself who already had what you sought. So how do you enter this state when your reality tells a different story? You imagine. Not in a vague, wishful way, but vividly, emotionally, fully. Neville Goddard called this living in the end, creating mental scenes that imply your desire is already fulfilled, and then feeling them as real, until they dominate your inner world. This is not pretending. It is choosing to prioritize inner truth over outer facts. You might close your eyes and picture yourself walking through your dream home, smelling the wood floors, hearing your laughter echo through the rooms. Or you might feel the weight of your dream job's ID badge, or the warmth of your partner's hand, or the sound of your own voice speaking words of success and peace. And as you feel those scenes, as you truly feel them, you impress them upon your subconscious. This is not optional. This is essential. Neville wrote, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and continue feeling that it is fulfilled until that which you feel objectifies itself." The emotion acts as glue. It binds the new idea to your subconscious. It bypasses logic, skepticism, and past programming. It becomes the new command. And here's what's truly miraculous. The more you feel these new truths, the more natural they become. What once felt like fantasy begins to feel like home. The old inner talk loses its grip. Doubt weakens. Faith strengthens. And soon, you're not just saying, "I am worthy." You know it. You feel it in your bones. And when you do, your world must reflect it. That is law. That is the power of living from the end. Emotion is not decoration. It is the fuel of manifestation. Use it consciously. Don't just repeat the words. Feel them. Feel them as if they are your present moment, your now, your truth. Because to your subconscious, that feeling is truth. And when truth changes inside you, reality follows. Not because you forced it, but because you became the new version of you who naturally lives it. That's how the shift becomes permanent. That's how miracles unfold. Consistency is where transformation becomes embodiment. It's not enough to have a moment of clarity, a flash of inspiration, or a powerful emotional shift. Lasting change, the kind that rewires your identity and reshapes your world, comes through daily reinforcement. Neville Goddard emphasized that the repetition of inner speech, combined with feeling, over time, creates the life you live. Your subconscious is not moved by occasional declarations. It is moved by the words you live in, the thoughts you return to, the assumptions you carry into every interaction, morning to night. If you've begun to shift your inner dialogue, to rewrite the script, to feel new truths, then the next step is to sustain it. To make this new conversation with yourself not just a practice, but a way of being. Think of it like building muscle. You don't go to the gym once and expect lifelong strength. You return, you build, you reinforce. And slowly, what once felt heavy becomes effortless. The same is true with inner speech. Start your mornings with intention. Before your feet hit the floor, affirm who you are. I am whole. I am worthy. I am powerful. I am already living the life I desire. Speak it. Feel it. Let those words become the emotional atmosphere of your day. Then throughout the day, be vigilant. Not in fear, but in awareness. Watch for the old voice, the subtle sabotage that whispers doubt. And when it rises, don't fight it, replace it. Speak something higher. Choose a new truth. Say it with conviction. Say it with heart. At night, close the day with imagination. Neville called this the most fertile time for planting new assumptions. As you drift to sleep, replay a scene that implies your wish fulfilled. Not a desperate hope, but a gentle certainty. Fall asleep in the feeling of the wish already fulfilled, and let that be the last impression your subconscious receives. And most importantly, do this every day, even when you're tired, even when your current reality shows no evidence of change. Because reality is not your master, it is your mirror. And the mirror takes time to catch up with the new image you are feeding it. This is where most give up. They say, it's not working, and revert back to the old script. But Neville warned us, perseverance is the secret of all successful transformations. You must stay faithful to the new assumption long enough for it to solidify into form. That's the test. That's the invitation. That's the power. So here is your challenge. Pick one day, just one, to fully commit. Tune into your inner talk. Speak with intention. Feel your words. Redirect every thought that doesn't serve you, and then do it again the next day, and the next, until this way of thinking becomes your natural way of being. Until you no longer have to try, because you have become the person who thinks, feels, and lives from that new state. And now it's time to decide. Are you ready? Drop a comment below. I choose to rewrite my life, and from today forward, live as if you have already become the person you've always dreamed of being. Because reality is nothing more than a mirror, reflecting the words you whisper to yourself each day. And that mirror is always listening.